What's up everybody, Superworks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2008 Ford Mustang Bullitt. Huge thanks to Ryan for providing me with this very clean, low mileage Bullitt to review for you guys today. So about the 2008 Bullitt. Well, anyone that's been following my channel for any amount of time probably knows I'm obsessed with Bullitt, and you know, my own Mustang is kind of a modern take on the Bullitt, and this was really the most faithful of all the Bullitts that have been made so far, you know, because it has the classic 60s styling with the round headlamps, and just all the proportions and stuff look great. And of course it's finished off here in the signature Highland green that was the car, of course, you know, in the movie. It's the same color, and so this whole thing, they made it as faithful as possible to the movie car. So you have, you know, no badges there for the grille. There's no emblems on the fenders. And even in the back, the only badge you have is a Bullitt badge there for the faux gas cap thing. But otherwise, no badges. It's just a really sleeper, kind of mean, low-key look. It looks awesome. You have these torque thrust styled wheels here, and overall it looks awesome. The owner of this one even took it one step further here, so you have the quarter window louvers there, which are very cool and don't come from the factory, unfortunately, but they look awesome. I think it's great to have those, and they also tinted the taillights as well, so those look great. And yeah, just the whole look of this, I love the way that these things look from the factory. You know, they had the more aggressive stance with the springs and everything else, and overall I think it's just the coolest looking Mustang ever. I love these things. Right, so the interior of the Bullitt Mustang, well, it's very awesome. It has a lot of really cool, unique touches here for the Bullitt version. Anyway, the first things first, sitting down in these seats. Now, these seats are actually out of the Shelby from 2008 here, so nicer than your standard Mustang GT seats. And I love also the ridges that they kind of have here to make them look like a seat from the 60s. And they're actually really nice, comfortable seats. You have some bolstering here that is a good amount beefy. It's, you know, wide enough, obviously, so that it's not race car-like or anything like that, but really sporty seats that actually feel pretty good. I'm kind of surprised by how, you know, much beefier they are than the standard Mustang GTs of the time. They actually do hug you in a little bit nicer there, so well done there on the seats. Steering wheel in the Bullitt is also really cool, and I believe out of the Shelby as well. So you know, similar design to, you know, your typical Mustang wheels of the time, but it has a really good 9-3 grip, and I like how it's leather wrapped in these portions instead of some of the plastic that you sometimes got on some of the other Mustangs of this era. And so I think the leather helps to make it feel a little bit nicer here at the 9-3 mark, and then the 10-2 notches are also a little beefier here and feel great, and just a really nice simple leather wrapped wheel, and you know, you have the Bullitt badge there over the steering wheel cover, so you don't even have a Mustang badge here inside, and so overall just a really nice wheel. Next is the gauges in the Bullitt, which I really love. They're just so cool, from the font of them, which looks very 60s-esque. You even have the little crosshairs, you know, to kind of throw back to the Bullitt emblem that you have there by the needles. And then even the lighting of them is kind of a yellowish white, you know, so it looks actually like it's a pair of gauges from the 60s, really. Then those little things are really what set the Bullitt apart. You know, it's not just a dark green Mustang without badges and a couple extra horsepower. It's all these little things, I think, that are really well thought out that really make the difference here. And so yeah, those gauges just look awesome. You just have your basic gauges there, you know, nothing electronic really, aside from the little information thing there in the bottom of the speedometer. But again, this is 2008. Back then, you know, they didn't have a whole lot of stuff like that, and I like it because, again, it keeps that old school vibe and just looks awesome. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, this is where it's just, again, very, very cool with this machine turned aluminum dash that now you see on performance back GTs of, you you know, modern times, but back then this was a brand new kind of thing, and a better choice, I think, than the wood grain, which is what they would have done if they really wanted to be original to the 60s Mustang here. But this looks really cool and does look like it's from the 60s, and so nice to have that. And then coming down, you just have your basic radio here. It was an option to get a navigation back then, but it's probably a better choice to go with the basic radio here. That way it doesn't feel quite as dated. And you have a 6-disc CD changer. This is the Shaker 500 system. There is a Shaker 1000, which had a subwoofer in the trunk as well. This one just has the standard stereo, but it does have an auxiliary jack in the center armrest and stuff, so you can hook it up to, you know, modern electronics and all that kind of stuff. And so nice to have that. And then you just have your basic climate controls, like, you know, you'd expect from any other car from this time, and just nice and simple once again, and so really well done. As far as storage space though, that is one thing that obviously is the same as a normal Mustang of this time. So you have a little map pocket here on the door, pretty small there. Coming over to the center, you really don't have anything else other than just 2 cup holders. So storage space is not this car's strong suit, but a lot of cars from this era didn't have a ton of storage space anyway, so not a huge surprise there. You do have the center armrest though, which opens up. And it is a pretty good size space there, so you can fit, you know, sunglasses, keys, wallet, all that kind of stuff in there. You also will find a power outlet, and your auxiliary jack that I mentioned earlier is there, and it also has a coin holder. And so overall, a nice little, you know, bit of storage there, and I think that's enough for most things. And so overall, you know, not bad for the time. Backseat space here in the 2008 Bullitt, same as any other 2008 Mustang, of course, and it's not as much space as like a newer Mustang, but it still is sufficient. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself, my knees are just barely grazing the back of the seat there, but I do fit, you know, and I still have about an inch or 2 of headroom there, so it's not super tight. Now again, if you had someone over 6 feet tall, they'd probably be a little cramped back there, but again, this is a Mustang, you're not going to be putting people back there all the time, and so, you know, I think for use in a pinch or every once in a while, I think it's totally sufficient and still pretty good. Trunk space in the Bullitt isn't quite as big as you would expect. So there's a decent amount of space there, you know, to fit, you know, 1 or 2 suitcases, but there is a weird incline towards the back of the trunk there. And so because of that, you know, it kind of limits, I think, a little bit of your space and versatility back there. But again, you know, for a daily driver kind of vehicle, as long as you're not carrying luggage for more than 2 people, I think that's about the limit of this trunk, but I think that's totally sufficient again for what this is. All right, so starting to go for a drive. It's got a good old key here in the 2008 Bullitt. You do have your little remote, but anyway, you just slip this into the ignition and it roars to life. So as you might be able to hear, this one doesn't have the factory exhaust. So this one has a BBK header, long tube header setup, as well as an off-road X pipe, and then it has some Borla type knockoff mufflers as well. So all that helps to make it sound really awesome, you know, with the cat delete and whatnot. And so it should sound pretty good out here on the road too. All right, so setting off in the 2008 Ford Mustang Bullitt here. So first thing that I noticed is how heavy the steering is. Now he does have some slightly wider tires on here. From the factory, these come with 235 wides. These are now 255. So that might be a little bit, but it's honestly, I mean, it almost feels like it's non-power steering. It's awesome though. Again, it helps with that old school feeling, although there were cars with power steering back then, but I think it just kind of gives it that more raw feeling. Another thing that you notice is that the clutch pedal is a little bit heavier than a lot of modern manual transmissions, but it's not overly heavy, and I think it actually still feels pretty good, fairly easy to use so far. You know, I haven't driven an 08 you know, Mustang in a few years since my last review, so you know, very easy to get used to and drive smoothly right off the bat. Other things to note though, I really love the driving position here in this generation Mustang, because you have these, you know, I guess brows over the dashboard, which is obviously a 60s throwback as well, and so those make it so that you feel like the dashboard's a little higher up and you sit pretty low in the vehicle, so the windshield doesn't seem huge, but it's good enough that you can still see pretty well. You know, you'd have a little bit of a hood to look out over, but it's not too bad. View out of the sides is great, you know, as far as the front windows are concerned. You know, there's no B-pillar to look around or anything, but this one does have those louvers, so that limits your visibility over your shoulders, but they do have slits in them, so you can still see through them. It's just not as much visibility as you obviously would have with the normal windows that came with these from the factory. Alrighty, so let's turn onto the straight road here first and see how it does. Here we go. racing intake that you have, which has this little butterfly valve around 2,500 RPMs that goes from tame to really opening it up. Sounds awesome. You also have 373 gears here now with the Bullits versus the standard 331s, I think, that you had with the other Mustangs. It's so loud, though. It's hilarious. One thing about the exhaust, if you are a die-hard Bullitt fan, they did tune the stock exhaust to sound as close to the movie car as possible. And so that's a really cool feature about the Bullits that this one obviously doesn't have anymore. But I'm not complaining because this still sounds amazing. And another acceleration. Got a little squirrely that time. And one other really cool thing about the Bullits is they actually raised the red line 250 additional RPM over a normal 4.6 liter V8 like these have. And so now it revs to 6,500 RPMs, which adds even more excitement. And yeah, back in the day, by the way, these things weren't slow. Although 315 horsepower doesn't sound a lot in these crazy times we're living with Hellcats and whatnot, this thing would still do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat. So no slouch by any means. Plenty of fun to have, plenty of fun, you know, on the streets to, you know, enjoy. And just listen to that, though. It's so crazy. Oh man, you want to wake the dead. This is a perfect car to do it in. It has really good pull too, right? Like 3,000 RPMs in third gear, you just stomp on it. I mean, it throws you in the back of your seat and just pulls like crazy. So those 373 gears, I think, really are what make the difference and help this to feel a lot more exciting than the standard Mustang GT from 2008. Now just relaxing a little bit here, going on a back road. It's a little bit tighter. I love the ride in these. Now the Bullits do have stiffer springs and struts over a standard, you know, 2008 Mustang, and so it gives you a little bit of a firmer ride, but it's still totally daily drivable. And honestly, it doesn't even feel that much stiffer than a normal Mustang from this time to me. But it does. I mean, they got that strut bar you can see that has the Bullitt logo on it and stuff. So there's a few other little things here to, you know, make the suspension feel a little stiffer than your average Mustang, and it just feels great. But we're going to go around some more corners here and see how it handles. But yeah, other things to note here now that we're on some more corners is the throttle response is really nice and snappy, and so it makes it pretty easy to rev match your downshifts. Also, now that we're up to speed here a little bit more, the steering just feels so good. I love the weight and the feel of it. It's just so organic and so just it just feels great. It's very raw feeling, and just everything feels great about this vehicle. As we go into a little bit of a corner here, feels pretty good. We got a few more coming up, and I love this exhaust, honestly, because I remember them saying that the Mustang in the movie Bullitt was really loud, just basically had straight pipes. So honestly, you know, I think this might actually be more faithful to the movie car than even from the factory. But yeah, a couple more corners here. Yeah, it's just really no lean and, you know, tons of grip. Now again, you have these slightly wider tires, 255s instead of the 235s, which certainly help with you know, keeping it a little more planted. But these were supposed to handle a good amount better than a standard Mustang from the factory anyway. Really tight corner here. See if we can get any body roll out of it. And it's staying stuck pretty well. We got a little bit of gravel even. It still is doing a really good job. So yeah, I mean, it handles really well. You know, I know everyone loves to use the muscle car stereotype, and especially, you know, one from basically 10 years ago here, but this thing handles great. And now just cruising on a main road. You know, we're at a higher gear here, so we can go past the police station nice and quiet. It is really nice though here on the road. It's just very smooth. Like I said, it's a really great thing to drive. I absolutely love it, and I know that you may think I'm biased because it's a Bullitt and whatnot, but honestly, it drives really, really well. It's just, like I said, so sharp and just feels great. But anyway, I'm going to drive this around for a little while longer here, and I'll come back and give you guys my final impressions. Alright, so I've been driving the Bullitt here for a little while longer, and it's a ton of fun. I really am enjoying it. Again, it's not just because it's a Bullitt, I promise. It's because it's so much tighter than a standard Mustang of this era, and that was their whole goal with this, is to make it really set it apart from a standard Mustang. And it's not just an extra 15 horsepower and an appearance package. It's way more brakes are upgraded a little bit with new slotted drilled rotors there as well. So they're better than they were from the factory. I think I remember reading the old reviews about these way back when the braking performance wasn't the best because of the tires being not the greatest and the brakes, you know, just being basically the same as a standard Mustang of the time. So these are a nice upgrade and really feel great whenever you put your foot into it. There's a little bit of dead travel before it really gets into the meat of the pad, but it really stops you really well, and I think it's really well matched with the, you know, power of this car. But that sound is just, it never gets old, and it really actually, especially between 2,000 and 3,000 RPMs, it actually kind of really sounds like the Bullitt car still from the movie. So it actually, I think that you still have some of that. Obviously, it's not that unique exhaust that they've made, you know, to make it sound like the Bullitt car, but just this motor with this setup and this tune and everything, it really sounds a lot like it, and so it's just great. I love how old school it feels. I really love my, you know, new 2016. I like all the, you know, toys and additional comfort and things that it has, but I think this generation, the S197, was really the last really simple Mustangs with basic radios, you know, heavier steering, heavier clutch, a little more raw, but it's still not so much. I mean, it's still a modern car. It's, you know, not nearly as hard to drive as one from the 60s, but it's just a really cool blend of the old and the new, and with all the retro cues here in the Bullitt, it's just honestly one of my favorite Mustangs of all time. And even whenever if they do a 2018 Bullitt, it's not going to have the round headlamps in the front. It's not going to, you know, look quite the same. I think really this, even as much as, you know, I'm excited about the 2018 ones, I think this is the epitome of the modern Bullitt, and I think that's what really makes the 08s special and my favorite over the 01s, and, you know, what may come in the future. But yeah, so huge thanks once again to Ryan for allowing me to review his Bullitt here. It's just so awesome. This one, like I said, is so mint. It's like 14,000 miles. It's just pristine, and so it was just really nice to, you know, have one that's in really great condition and see what these were like. Really, you know, basically when they were new, aside from, you know, the exhaust, it's still basically stock with the suspension setup and everything. It just feels great. So Ford did an awesome job with these way back then. So yeah, once again, huge thanks to Ryan. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below about the 2008 Bullitts here. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.